G'day. Well, it's been 2 years on the road now, and I've learned a few things, made a few mistakes, got a few things right, and in this video I want to show you, apart from a couple of the highlights and the lowlights, I also want to show you and give you some ideas that might help you in your trip and if you make it to 2 years or more. Over 90 videos in the past you might want to look at, and oh, I'm doing it again, I'm starting to dribble. Anywho, let's go. Okay, if you're about to head off for the day, it's a good idea to have yourself a little list, and I'll pop that little list at the end of this video. Things that are worth checking just before you hit the road. One of them is make certain all your caravan wheel studs, wheel nuts are nice and tight. I'll tell you about that, well, you've probably already seen it. And then there's your classic routine of setting up the caravan and the car, putting all your various things on. So for me it's like putting on the shackles, which is the chain, make certain you cross them over, and I've talked about that before. If you've got something like Stone Stomper, make certain it's all nice and secure. If you've got a rear video camera, make certain it's plugged in and working, and just check it out the front inside the car. If you've got a D35 like mine, if you've taken the Caravan off and you're putting it back on, make certain when it goes on, you press that little button and you hear it go click. The other little thing that they've done is they make it so the little plastic cap that goes on will never go on unless you press that button. So if you can't get the plastic cap on, which sometimes I can't anyway, but I will eventually, if you can't, it might mean that it's not secured. You definitely want that fixed right. Also release the handbrake. Turn off your gas for your cooking and so on and so forth, and make certain your jockey wheel is either well out the road or take it unscrewed and put it away where it belongs. And any other important things that, oh yeah, your breakaway for the car and the Caravan, make certain that that's attached and working. And yeah, any other, make certain your trailer is plugged in, your little trailer plug. And make certain if you've got an Anderson plug, which you almost definitely will have, because that might go out to the DC to DC charger, or it will go probably somewhere into the Caravan for charging the fridge. Make certain that's connected. And don't forget that little trick of mine where you put like the ocker strap to hold those two cables, the trailer cable and the Anderson plug, just in case for some reason one of them falls on the ground. You don't want to be falling on the ground and then being ripped off, and then you've got no trailer plug and no Anderson plug. Be in there. Now you might be thinking about what size, you call it Tupperware, call it whatever you like, but what size plastic container should I get? Even though I've got a handful of these and a handful of slightly longer ones in all different shapes, I have found the best one of all is around a square one. And if you go to Coles or Woolies, usually one company will have it on sale and the other ones won't. So yeah, you probably get yourself 3 or 4 of those. Now the reason I've chosen the square ones, they pack really well, and also they are about the size of a saucepan. So if you cook your food and you want some leftovers, pop it in there. You'd be pretty hard pressed to take it over the top. So worst case, you can have 2 of them in the fridge. So that's what I would recommend. Handful of those. Thongs. Now you might say, oh look, I don't do thongs, I'm not a thongy type person. Well, if you're going to go into public showers, it's definitely worth wearing thongs, because I wear thongs in the shower all the time. And it's good also if you're walking from the Caravan to the to the showers and the toilets, it's a good idea to have thongs, because otherwise you could put shoes and socks on. It's a bit of a pain. Now if you buy just the little cheapies, I don't know whether you can see that, but I've had these for probably less than a month, and I think they cost me $3. I personally think they're about $2 more than I should have paid. Yeah, look, it's okay for the shower and stuff like that, but look at this. It's already really well worn there, and to have a blowout is a really extreme possibility. You know, the old blowout. Oh, it won't blow out. Oh, that's a blowout, because quite often that part will bust off, and you don't want to go through that scenario. So what I did was, this is not a plug for Aldi, but if you're lucky enough this time of the year, which is about Christmas time, Aldi have the special on the thongs, and the brand of the thong is Havana. And the reason I'm promoting this is because these are brand new. I've had them about a week, and here's one I prepared earlier. That, look at that, they've still got lots of tread on them. Yeah, they're wearing down that, but these are 2 years old, so you know, it doesn't matter where you get it from, but that's a really, really good brand, and it's lasted for ages. Now, apart from wearing them in the shower and walking them around the campsite just to throw on some shoes or some feet protection, apart from that, you may have already seen, I use them a lot for when I'm bending down and putting my knee on the gravel or on the ground somewhere, when I'm doing up the shackles on the Caravan and doing all of that preparation just to head off. I'm always using one of these, even if I'm changing the wheel on the Caravan or wheel on the car, or doing any of that sort of stuff where I've got to put my delicate little knee on the ground. These are great. Just throw them down, and Bob is your uncle. So not in any particular order, but these are some of the things I found. This little product, it's just an air freshener, and I found this particular product really, really good, because even though it's got an aerosol, you don't have your normal thing at the top. Just a couple of sprays and just freshens up the Caravan. There's definitely times I've needed it, and other times just nice to give it, as I say, a bit of a freshener up. No particular product, but that was pretty good. This random tip is basically a piece of masonite, I think it is, and all it is, it's just might have even been an offcut, but it's not a bad size. What I've done is I just lay it on the kitchen floor, because believe it or not, we all sort of think you've got the Caravan, they're built really, really tough, but if you pour hot liquids on there, or drop fire on there, or do some of the things that we accidentally sometimes do, then you're going to ruin the floor, and there's no way to repair it. So with this here, it gives it some protection. I think it's a great idea. Looks a bit ugly, and you can see it's weathered a few things, but it's also saved the day. So a couple of daily routines that I do is I will sweep out the Caravan. I know it doesn't look as though I have, but I will sweep out the Caravan. With my van, it does tend to get a bit of dust in it, because it's just the way it was designed. Slightly old Caravan does get some dust, and it'd be very hard to keep the dust out. Anywho, I sweep it out, but I have cheated. I've got the blower now. I know it's a little bit OTT, but the great thing about the blower is you can clean down the bed. So, you know, the sheets, you just give it a bit of a blow there. And you can get all the nooks and crannies that are a bit hard to with a little half broom or a full broom, and that's really handy. The other great thing about the blower, and you will have seen, once you get on the road, you'll see a lot of people use this. When you're starting yourself a little fire, a little campfire, if you're finding it a bit of a struggle to get a light, a great little thing is get it going a little bit, put the blower on it, and suddenly you have an instant, really nice, warm, cozy fire. So that's worth a thought of getting the blower. Saucepans. Which size should you take? How many should you take? Now, I'm basing all of my assumptions on you're going either solo, one person, or you're traveling two. Probably even get down to a small family, 2 and 1, or 2 and 2 children. I've only taken two of these. I call them medium size, and I'm pretty sure from memory they take 2 litres. I use this for, you're probably going to say, how revolting. I use this for cooking my food, lots and lots of my food. So I'd cook veggies and I'll heat up things, and yeah, most of my cooking will be in 1 or 2 of these. So I've got 2 mediums, and for those who are nostalgic, I've also, and I use this also for boiling my kettle. I call this my kettle because it's really quick. You pop it in, don't need much in there. You can see how much it is straight away when it's boiling. You know it's boiling, ready to make a cup of tea or whatever. But if you're a romantic type, you might want the old whistling kettle. I love it just because it kind of puts me in a mood, you know, makes me realise I really am camping and I'm out there. And if you've got a good sense of humour and you've got guests over or they're nearby, it might be fun just to do the old I've filled a couple of people like that before. Anywho, the old whistling kettle, great idea. Chocks for your caravan. Now, I've been through this before as well. You can get your cheapies, your little yellow plastic ones. They're about between $7 and $10 each. And you would think, oh, that's fine, I've only got a little pop top, it's not that important. Well, if you want to spend a little bit more, actually a fair bit more, then you can get these chocks. Now they are pretty heavy, and I have had a few people complain that they're too heavy, but the one advantage is you can use these chocks on a little pop top or a camper trailer or a big van, and believe me, they really hold quite well. The other thing that I find is if you're just got your drainage going outside and you don't want to put on that hose in your caravan park, or you're out in the bush and you don't want to it just to dribble everywhere, what I tend to do is put just a simple bucket. Square ones are great. Square buckets are good because they stack easily. But if you just want to get your old cheapo plastic bucket, now the thing is, when you put that down to catch all the drainage from your shower or from your washing your dishes, etc. Australia is pretty windy, especially WA sometimes, and well, in fact all of them. Once that wind picks up, you find that bucket, you might even find it blown away and just drive off. Oh, lost my bucket. If you put one of these in, I've got to use 2 hands on this because it's pretty heavy. You put that chock in there and that will hold it, so all your rubbish, your water goes in there. And yes, you're right, you do have to take this out at some stage when you're tipping the water, wherever you do on the plants, and you'll need to wash it. But it's a great idea to give it some stability. What a mess. Oh, please. It's a really great idea to have as many, at least 2 ofs, mostly only 2 ofs, various things, because you might say, oh, that's fine, I'll just buy it at the local IGA and I don't mind paying a little bit extra. But it's not even a matter of sometimes paying the extra. Sometimes they might not have it at all. So yeah, the 2 things that I think that are worth, or spares that I think are worth having, make certain you've got a spare toilet roll, because you don't want to be using the leaves and the grass and everything for wiping the bot. And also make certain you have probably a spare butter, spare milk if you've got enough room in the fridge. But even if you don't have a spare room in the fridge, at least get yourself a box, you know, the boxes of milk. Just at least have one of those, because nothing worse than about to start the day or have a cup of tea or whatever. Oh, no milk. Milk is, for a lot of things like cereal and stuff like that, there is no alternative. So yeah, have a spare one of those. And what else? There's quite a few other things. Here's my little list. I'll read it out. Yeah, have a spare butter if you've got room in the fridge. Talked about the Barocca, the cereal. Make certain you've got more than one cereal, otherwise once that cereal's out, it's out. I always have 2 detergents when I'm doing the dishes. Good idea to have a spare one. For food, minced meat. Always, for me, I always have a minced meat. This is based on the fact you're not a vegan. If you're vegan, well, you might have some alternates to that. But I always have a spare minced meat in the freezer. At least I'm always guaranteed of 1 or 2 meals out of that. Spaghetti, I usually have 3 containers, and they're only about $1 or $2 for a packet anyway. A whole packet of spaghetti in the cupboard. Always have that spare. Apples, I'm a bit of an apple nut, so I tend to, every time I get into town, I'll buy half a dozen my favourite apples, which is pink ladies. And some nuts, always good to have something to nibble on during the day, during the afternoon, whatever. That might be dinner. Bottled water. Now, I really don't like the concept of bottled water, only for the fact that, number one, you're in Australia. Most places, drinkable, or they call it potable water, most places are readily available. Just go to a tap and pour it out. Look out in the outback, and there are some parts of the countries in Australia where you'll be drinking, or you'll be getting out of the tap will be that other water, what do they call it? I can't think of it. But some people say, oh, there's no way known about drinking that. But if you have a couple of bottles of water, then you can always use that for your cup of tea or for a glass of water, and keep your water up and so on and so forth. Now with that water, I don't tend to get, like, occasionally I'll get a 24 pack. But as I say, the thing I'm against it is you use your water, throw it out, use your water, throw it out, and I really don't like that idea of throwing out plastic bottles all the time, even if you're going to recycle them for 10 cents or whatever. But yeah, where I can, I try and just use the water in the tap, and when I'm filling up from any campsite, I run that water from the tap through a proper food grade blue hose. Then that goes through a good quality filter into my tanks. So that's usually where I'm using most of my water. Make certain you've got a good handful of AA batteries, a good handful of AAA batteries, and if you go into one of those dollar shops, you can buy like a little packet, and it's got the, I think, of the CR 2026, CR 2032, and they're just like a little packet. You don't need to be really great, but there's nothing worse than some of those things, like it might be your temperature gauge and, you know, the temperature in the room, or just little things like that. It's really handy to have the exact battery to put in. Yeah, pacemaker, probably not. Part of my daily routine is, I hate to be advertising all these things, but I've tried a couple of different brands, and like the copies of Barocca, nothing in my opinion really beats them. So I usually start the day with a Barocca, and it's not because I've got a hangover or anything, it's just that it gives me that little zoop, and vitamin B really helps. That's the only drug I take to keep me going. Lots of vitamin B. And I'll talk about it in a moment, but always have a spare. That's one I always insist on having a spare. So have a spare tube of Barocca, or 2 or 3 of them, just so it's going to last you a while, so you can get through the days and the weeks as they fold on. Which also brings me to cereal. Now, what I tend to do is I will go into town and just keep an eye out on each town I go into, especially the big towns. And if I find my favourite cereal on special, then I'll buy, you know, probably 10 boxes of it. I know, excessive, but when you see a bargain, you really should get into it, because otherwise, sometimes, well, I'll give you an idea. In Sydney, Melbourne, my cereal I think cost about $7.50. Sometimes you can get it on sale down to about $5. Up in the outback, that same box is $10, and very seldom is it on special. So you don't want to be paying a whole lot more than you need to. Always look out for the bargain. Well, there it is, the last video for 2022. Thank you very much for coming along on the journey with me, and hopefully it's been an exciting adventure for you. It certainly has been for me, and as I say, I appreciate you coming along. Next year I'll be back on the road again. I'll be heading for Tasmania in early January, so if you've got any comments or any places you say you really got to go and check it out, Paul, please let me know. So hopefully this video was useful, helpful and or entertaining, and if you thought it was worth a thumbs up, that would be great. If you want to give me a late Christmas present and you haven't already subscribed, please subscribe. Tell all your friends, see if I can make that 3,000 by the end of the year. That would be great. And until next time, this is Paul Wheel Drive signing off, and Merry Christmas to you all.